Do you know this book?
Yeah.
I don't. You do?
I've heard of it, yeah.
Have you read it?
No, I haven't.
Pretty genius.
I was reading your book.
Oh, you were. You were.
I
ish.
was.
Yeah. Okay.
You'll notice the...
Oh, wow. Okay. You have some. Do you have
just
questions?
ripped out pieces of paper and
Yeah,
stuff.
stuff in
But, you know,
Yeah.
but they are marked. They
Yeah.
are marked. Well, because it was funny because there were parts of the book that I wanted to mark because you mentioned the first Ritz gig here in New York, which
Yeah.
I went to, and it was interesting when you started discussing certain aspects of, particularly those first couple of years, and as the drinking and the substances sort of creeped in, and parts that you didn't remember. And I was wondering, like, for things you didn't remember, where did you go? Because, like, in the case of Keith, you know, he had an interview, or James Fox, they did long conversations. And then James would, you know, come up with these transcripts, figure out what Keith missed. Or in the book, there are also interviews with, like, Marianne Faithfull and Ronnie Spector to sort of fill out the picture. But for bits that you thought you didn't remember, where did you go to fill that in so you could get the smell and the place and the people?
Well, I think writing did jar my memory because you write a sentence and like you have to write a follow-up sentence to that initial sentence, and I started to think to myself, well, that's not right, and actually you're not being very fucking honest about this whole thing.
Yeah.
And let's go back even further. What was your part in this thing? And when I started to find my part in some of these events that I wrote about that got me to where I ended up, things and smells and weird bits of stories started to come back to me. And once I started to write, I started to remember. And I would ask friends, you know, who were around, does that sound right? It's what I just wrote. Does this sound right? Yeah, that's about it. Or no, you're completely fucking wrong. But in the event of like going through what was then Czechoslovakia, there was a stamp in my passport.
Yeah.
You know, I wonder how many stamps in my passport were missing. You know, events in my life that was at least something that I could go, what the hell is this? Did we go through a border there? No, we played a gig in Czechoslovakia. So I wrote about it. There's a part in the book where I found a stamp in my passport marked Czechoslovakia, and I asked one of our crew about that. Did we go through there and I slept through the border crossing? No, we played a big gig there. It was one of the first in, you know, once the wall went down. So it's a big event. You know, it's a big event, apparently.
And you missed it.
I did. I did. And it wasn't like I was a blackout drunk or I understand I was pretty present at a lot of these things that.
But the other thing that's interesting about that life, and you know, I not having directly lived it, but told different versions of it, is that, you know, there's a momentum to it that is just constant. You know, you're actually in the middle of doing rather than reflecting on the doing. Yeah. And you know, there are one-nighters, there's people to meet, there's you know, different there's everything is constantly changing. And for the most part, I've found that people don't keep diaries. The songs are the diaries. You know, the performances and the memories are the diaries. And so for me to tell a story, I'm sort of getting into almost like genteel interrogation. Yes. You have to do that to yourself.
Yeah, it's weird. It's just straight up weird to do that and not keeping a diary. You know, a lot of times I kicked myself for not keeping a diary. And but I think my path is whatever it is, and you know, starting to write 3 years ago, and suddenly I had 2 deadlines a week, and I got to write 2,000 words a week, and that forced, am I going to be a writer? You know, and I found this dumb little voice that I found in writing these columns, like, and I started to get honest and reveal certain things about my life that was okay for me to reveal without harming my wife or my kids or, you know, bandmates or all that kind of, you know, what I'm talking about, right? And
did you find yourself actually contacting any of the Gunners about things, the band members themselves, like Slash or Matt?
Well, Matt has got a memory. Like, he remembers every little thing, what the backstage room looked like.
There's one guy in every band who can do that.
He's that guy. He's that guy. And let's see, Axl reminded me of a story, I wrote about at the gig in Seattle. Went in the bathroom, like, we're going to burn this fucking place down. And suddenly I was back there and I remembered the whole thing. I wasn't even drinking then. That's just bad memory.
Yeah.
But mostly these are just, no, I didn't call Slash and go, hey, remember that time. But because it's really not about remember that time, it's really about my experience going through it.
What
and
you remember at the time.
Trying to get the reader to live the insanity. And that's why the book at the beginning does go back and forth, because you get a little uneasy, I hope, that's my hopes. You're getting, like, where am I? And suddenly...
That's it's sort of trying to recreate that dislocation that really you feel, because, what you're doing is not normal, even though it seems normal when you're in it.
Yeah.
Did you actually write the book as it starts, like with 94, or did you start with a story? Did you start with I was born in a log cabin? What was, like, the first thing you set down?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I think I wrote about my experience in I ended up in the hospital in 94, and my experience of what the pain felt like going there, and my experience seeing my mom come into the hospital, and that was really a torturous thing for me to write. My mom had passed, but so it was. It brought all these other stories, and I would jot down little things, or at the bottom of my Word document, I'd write asshole, and then write about that later on. So I don't know. I didn't start at the beginning. I didn't write the book in any order. When I wrote about too much dark stuff, I'd write about light stuff. Yeah. And I think the light stuff became so much more lighter because I was in the darkness for a while and reading, Blood Meridian while you're writing dark stuff. You're going to get in some...
Good idea.
It's a great idea, have the noose swinging in the closet. So I don't know. I don't know if I wrote the book in the right order, the right way, or any of that stuff. I hope the book's good. I'm scared to death, you guys, of you guys reading the book. I really am. Writing is something you do by yourself. And I've had good people with Tim Moore from Playboy, and then my senior editor, Stacy Creamer here, and my wife reading some of the stuff and going, oh, wow, okay, yeah, all right, well, we got daughters, Duff, and they're, yes, dear. I don't know, I'm scared. I really am, I'm confident in, I told my truth, and that's, at the end of the day, that's all I can go by, and
But there's also, I can also get a sense that there was pleasure in telling the story, because that story about the first trip up to Seattle, the Guns N' Roses, that first bizarre pilgrimage, cars breaking down, hitching, gigs canceled, where's the gear, there's no food. It's actually one of the most uplifting sections of the book, because for all of the mess, you get there and you do it as a gang, actually as the closest thing to brothers that maybe you actually had during the whole ride. Yeah,
I think that we, that trip fleshed us out. If we can make it through this, we can make it through Pay to Play in LA. The rest is just, and we knew we could write songs together, and or at least we knew we could discover how to write songs together, which is a big, huge step for a band. Like, we're going to maybe figure out how to write a song, a good song, a really good song.
Together, too.
Together.
It's not just like one guy saying his piece.
Nope. It was a band. It was a real band. It was a brotherhood. And there's I tried to write humor. I mean, I look at my life, I don't take myself too seriously at all, and I hope, God, sitting here talking about my book and my columns, and
But that's what writers do. All you get to talk is about me. You know,
Yeah,
because
right.
there's nobody else doing it.
yes. So enough about you, back to me. No.
Yeah, right, exactly.
I look at my life, I see the humor in my deal, and I think I always have. Writing humor is a different thing. Writing humor into a story, when there's trying to capture the humor that was there, is difficult.
Yeah.
I can do it in columns, and I'll just happen across humor in a column. Writing a book is a whole different animal.
Did you find it hard to sort of try and capture, describing music in words?
I don't know if I really tried.
Or did you? Because in a sense, a lot of the story, it's not like there's like musical analysis or like reviews of each record. You seem to talk a lot about sort of the passage to and through these experiences, and it's not like there are record reviews in there. You're really telling a story that has personal momentum. But was that a conscious decision, or just something you felt wasn't necessary or really germane to the
Well, the music's
momentum
there.
of the story?
I think the music's there, and isn't music? I mean, for me, it's my when I listen to an artist, it's my own experience. How I perceive the song, and if I were to try to explain the music that I've been part of writing or whatever, besides saying words like beautiful or brutal or yeah, or we wrote the riff for this in the as the afternoon light was fading, and fuck that shit.
That's my gig.
Right. Well, you know what I mean. So I wrote about things like Stephen and I playing to Cameo records and playing to Sly and the Family Stone and listening to grooves and you can hear those grooves in especially Appetite. You can hear that backbeat that Stephen developed, that real groove, and that's all from 70s, and then like Prince and even the electronic drums of Cameo.
Yeah.
But Prince's drumming on the first three records is ridiculous.
I know.
It's sickening. And in guitar playing, everything. So yeah, it's ridiculous. But enough of that. But I tried to, what were the things that influenced me? And then us as a rhythm section, we were becoming a rhythm section. I wasn't really a bass player. He was just learning. He was like a metal drummer.
Yeah.
Double kick drum and tons of drums.
Who's the kick drum? Yeah.
A lot of blonde
Who's the
hair.
double kick drum?
Yeah. And he became the best punk rock drummer. I mean, he had that Ramones kit.
Yeah.
A rack tom, snare. Floor tom, snare, no rack tom. Like a crash. Crash and a ride. Cowbell.
Hey, you got it.
And a hi-hat.
I got a hankering.
Yeah. Hey. Put my pants on. One leg at a time. Except I make gold records.
One of the other interesting things about that Seattle story, that first trip, was that even that early on, as you reflect on that, there is a feeling in there about, like, why didn't this last? There was momentum and there was going to be more ascent, but there's a purity about that moment that even as you're telling it, you can tell that it's slipping. Like it's very ephemeral.
I think we thought our band would last forever because we were such a tight brotherhood. We weren't prepared for all of the outside to come in, and there was wedges driven, and you're the guy. No, you're the guy. You're the guy, and all of that dumb stuff, and then being recognized everywhere in a grocery store, going in to get a pack of smokes and a bottle of vodka, people freaking out, all of those other things that start to happen, and money coming in, and everybody all of a sudden having their own houses, and we're not living in this band house out of each other's pockets anymore, and all of that. We weren't preparing ourselves for those steps. We were truly a band that lived in the moment, whatever that moment was. And I gotta say, I stayed away from watching live video that band. I don't watch any live video or listen to records of any band. I mean, I just move ahead. And somebody played this live video for me 2 weeks ago of Guns N' Roses 1991. And it was, I was like, oh, I get it. I get what everybody else saw. It's been that long. I saw our band, and it was brutal, and it was real. It was really real. I felt it. I'm like, those fucking guys mean it. And there's me. God damn.
Really meaning it.
I mean it, you know, and we meant it. Sorry, you guys. I should turn my phone off. I did. But I don't. Yep. But with what were we getting at? Writing about music, and I don't really know.
It's the old joke like dancing about architecture, but in a sense, that is what I try to do. And when you have, at the very least, what you want to do is project and communicate what the experience felt like and how it changed you from the kid in Seattle who went to LA and went through all of that stuff and became something and then something else, because it's all tied in with music. Without music, it wouldn't have happened.
Indeed. And music remains my passion. That's my thing, and I always will be. There's no retirement from this thing, and
it's like the mafia.
It's like the mafia, man. I can, I saw Lemmy on the eve of this birthday. I'm 47, so it's the eve of. It was February 4th, and I went to go see Motorhead in Seattle. Lemmy was in town, and they played this place where the backstage room was up some stairs, and Lemmy wasn't feeling good, and it was cold out, and his legs, something happened with his legs the day before, and he just couldn't go up the back stairs to the backstage room, so he stayed in the bus, and he's calling me kid. Hey, kid. He's 20 years older than I am. Kid, I'm like, maybe this last Motorhead tour, fuck, wow. Well, and they got on stage, and that dude played, he was more fierce than 5 20-year-olds at the top of their game. Yeah. He just owned it. And it was like, okay, I guess that's maybe me in 20 years, screaming and pissed off and spitting and swearing, and my daughters will still be going, God, Dad, you swear too much. The
thing is, whenever I sort of feel like, have I done this too long? Am I losing it? I always watch The Last Waltz, because there's a scene in there where Muddy Waters is singing Manish Boy. And it's actually a really classic sequence because, and I found this out in doing liner notes for the box set of the CDs, is that while they were filming it, as he was singing, all but one of the camera guys had to change reels. So there was one guy who kept his face up close on Muddy, and it sort of slowly zooms in onto this face, and he looks so feral. He's sitting down. He's got to be in his mid-60s by at that point. This is 1978. And the closer you get in, you just realize that as long as he's ever going to draw a breath, that's exactly who he's going to be.
Yeah.
And that was, in fact, the case. I saw him in New York a number of times after that, and he's sitting down. But when he sang, I was the boy.
Yeah.
He was the man.
Yeah.
And it just shows that, you only quit when you just can't get up.
And with Lemmy, he couldn't get up the stairs, but he didn't quit.
He still didn't quit.
No. He was just saving his energy, I found that out.
Wasting it on stairs, yeah.
I got a tour bus right there.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So we need to take some questions from the audience.
Questions from the audience.
Oh, sorry,
There
we're
we
having
go.
too much fun.
I know.
All right,
Yeah.
We were trying to signal on you.
So David writes at it. I was telling him, I was asking him where he writes. Like, dude, where
I'm
do you
taking
write?
a question from the audience.
You write in like planes and stuff. And he goes, no. I have a desk that I write. I'm like, God, I want to be like him, man. I want to have a desk that I don't have a desk.
Well, you know what? It's a place to go.
Yeah.
It's a place to go where you can just sort of be in your head entirely. At least every writer is different, and I know that. But for me, you know, I sort of go out and do these things. I go and talk to musicians. I go on the road. I go here. I go there. But in order to process it, I got to be in that space, surrounded by all my outlines and my scribble and my transcripts and the music and, you know, the stereo and the radio. And
Yeah, I guess you write real stories. Yeah,
No,
that's true. Yeah, I write like these dumb columns like, yes, today I saw.
You know, there's nothing dumb
Too
about
much traffic.
There's nothing dumb about any writing.
Yeah.
I think writing and language is one of the most sacred things that we have. And so to have a story like this, which I highly recommend, actually, I don't think there are any lies in here. That's the beauty of it. And it's not easy. That's the other thing. If it was easy, everybody would do it.
I went on Lou Dobbs last night, and he introduced the book. Lou Dobbs, gentle old fella. His new book, It Is So Easy.
Proper grammar, please.
Yes.
No contractions.
Nope, no contractions. It is so easy. Yeah.
But enough about me. We got a questions.
What made you actually want to write this book? I mean, was it just people constantly asking you, do it, do it, do it? Or what made you actually want to, like, all right, I'm going to do this?
There was no real outside pushing to write the book. And as I said, I had no great need to write a tell-all or go out and do a cash grab to, you know, a book deal. But I think for me, I was becoming a writer. And columns are great. I love writing my Seattle Weekly column. I love writing the CSPN column now. It's a community that created at Seattle Weekly, but there's, what more can I do? I read all of these books. I have a library at my house. I have a Kindle. I'm reading all the time. Let me just try writing some more words than a column. It started with that. Let's write more words than a column. Let's see what happens. And let's see if I can write about my insanity. Because that's kind of creative writing, and I just kept writing. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
It does. Okay.
Hi,
Hi.
how are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. I don't really have a question. I just want to say thank you for the music and for, I know you and the band helped me out a lot through a lot of tough teenage years. And just thank you. And
Yeah.
I have a really cool Velvet Revolver tattoo.
Sweet. Good. Well, thanks. I'm glad you got what you got something greater than just the music out of something my band or. Thank you. Yeah.
Sorry, I just have a quick music question.
Yeah.
I know, I love your solo work. I was just curious, like, why join Jane's Addiction, or why, like, get involved with Velvet Revolver when you had such an intense experience in Guns N' Roses? Just the difference between being, say, a solo artist. I know you're in a band, but, like, solo versus a band type
Right.
thing.
So I think I'm taking your question as, hi, how you doing? Why did I go on playing music?
No, like, I like Beautiful Disease, and I like Believe in Me, and Love Dark Days. Like, why would you then join, like, with Velvet Revolver or Jane's Addiction?
Oh, why didn't I just keep being a solo artist?
I'm just curious if you're taking a line.
Yeah, that's a fair question. I've never been asked that question before. I think Velvet Revolver happened because it was supposed to happen. I think Slash and I missed playing with each other, and it was organic. We just started writing songs together. Matt was there, and Dave Kushner, who had been playing in my band, came along. He knew Slash from junior high school, so it was like this kind of familiar thing, and the band was born. And in music, I just follow. There you are. I just follow kind of the path that's before me, and wherever that takes me. The Janes thing was an innocent. My wife and I were at dinner with Perry and his wife Etty, and they just lost their bass player, and they wanted to write a record, and they wanted me to help them see if I could help him write some songs. If like the chemistry of me coming in the room would do something. And we wrote some good songs. And so that was just another thing. The path was in front of me. Why not? I love Jane's Addiction. Who doesn't? You know. Yeah, I don't know. Merle Haggard's band next, or yeah.
You thought Axl was difficult.
Oh yeah, but Merle smokes weed though, at least, right? Like,
Yeah, he's settling down.
yeah.
Hi, Duff.
Hi.
How are you, man?
Good. How are you?
Well, first of all, thank you for writing the soundtrack to my youth, man. Bottomed up. It was awesome.
You're welcome.
Appreciate that.
You're welcome.
And also, just a question. How does Meridian Rock now fit into your whole game plan with everything?
Just kind of one step and one day at a time. How am I going to manage that thing and do everything else?
Yeah, I mean, I know, like, you're teaching it, like you were at the
I
event
wrote a
in
bunch of
Texas.
columns about what is a stock, what is a bond, what is a loan, what is a, you know, at the time, cash for clunkers, what is this thing? And Meridian Rock is a kind of whole and different thing, and it's me helping, I think, my peers in music manage their dough. I think it's a very underserviced thing, and it's kind of, I've got a lot. I've got my wife and my kids, and I've got sort of this, a bunch came my way through sobriety and learning things again the hard way. That maybe it's time to be of service a little bit to some people that have helped me along the way.
Will you manage my portfolio, please?
How much you got, man?
Did you ever actually figure out how much you just blew? And I'm not just talking about like booze or drugs or anything else, but just on
Me personally?
Yeah, but just on inattention to the guns money before you started looking at those statements and taking that into account.
On a personal
Yeah.
level.
Did you ever get like a tally? Like how much did I really throw away because I wasn't paying attention?
Oh, because I wasn't paying attention, what I could have made on the money and all
but just
that.
what was coming in and what I wasn't being aware of. Because it's not like you get a salary. It's not even just like a regular check or anything.
Yeah.
It's like it comes in waves. It goes out in waves.
Luckily for me,
It goes out in waves you've never seen. You know.
yeah, there was a couple waves that I wish I had back, but really, there was. I'm really lucky that I have 7 older brothers and sisters. I grew up in a Depression era parents, and McKagans don't live beyond their means.
Yeah.
And so my first, like when we started getting real money, I bought a Corvette, man. I want that Corvette, but let's face it, it wasn't a Lamborghini. It wasn't a Rolls Royce.
Yeah.
It was a $28,000 brand new Corvette.
Yeah.
For me, that was as fancy as it gets. And my oldest brother John came down and to LA. And he goes, okay. So you're just going to waste all your money. You're going to. I'm like, John, and there was no explaining. Like, well, dude, it's not a Lamborghini. You probably didn't even know what a Lamborghini is, you know, and like.
Pasta or something. You know.
Yeah, pasta. We're not talking about So it really, those types of experiences for me kind of kept me in balance. There was a couple of times like I went to I didn't know what's the designer, honey, the Italian designer, the one I told you the story. They shut the store down for us. Versace. So we're in Italy, we're fancy, right? And this Versace wants to close down their store.
Mr. Versace.
From Mr. Versace, and we go to Versace, and I go in, and there's like some fancy suits and whatnot, and some luggage, and I mean, I had no experience of clothes costing thousands of pounds, and it was in lira at the time. So
Oh God, that's like 18 digits.
Yeah. So whatever I bought was like, I bought some suits and a bunch of crap.
That white suit.
Dumb stuff. Just really
white
bad.
suit. Don Johnson.
You know,
look, yeah.
kind of Don Johnson, but I spilled red wine on it the first night I had it, you know, so it was ruined.
Okay.
But I spent 40.
So it's like Don Johnson via Madame Wong's, you know. So.
And they closed down the store for us and served us champagne, and I just bought and filled up and sent it off with a minder, and it was $40,000 later or something. And it was whatever, something million lira. And I thought, well, that's can't be that much. It's lira, and they're just some suits and some stuff. And I wish I had that dumb night back. But, that's how I
The hot
learned.
tip, when they close the store, it means you can't get out.
Right. Yes. But I didn't fly like private jets all the time or doing that kind of stuff. So I came out relatively unscathed.
We're going to take one more question from the audience.
One
Hey,
more
Doc.
question?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gino is going into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame next year, and I know I've seen a video on YouTube of you performing with Guns N' Roses, like a one-off show. So I was wondering if you're going, because I read Slash is going. I was wondering if you're going.
You heard Slash was going.
Yeah.
That's funny.
I don't know.
I just talked to him yesterday. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of rumor and speculation about that. It's been sort of that can of worms that's been sitting there underneath the surface of rock for a few years. And I wasn't even aware we were going to be eligible for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, nor did I really care. But in about 2007, when we VR inducted Van Halen, and it kind of all went south. I don't know if anybody remembers that. For Van Halen went south, and Slash and I then we were being asked. That was the first time. You guys know you're eligible in 5 years for this thing. Like, for what? For the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Us? We're like, I don't know. We're young, What do you mean? No, I don't mean Van Halen's old. I didn't mean it like that. That'll come back to bite me in the ass. So it's kind of been sitting there, and so I'm here to tell you tonight here at Strand's Bookstore, we're going to get back together. We're going to start playing stadiums in 5 months. We start with the Yankee Stadium, 4 nights there. We're going, no, I really don't know.
You heard it here first.
You did. You can write about that in Rolling Stone. Go ahead.
That's going to be the first thing I do when I get back to the office tonight.
Duff told me, so yeah.
Given that you've been nominated, and I think that the smart money is you get in, but in looking at it, looking at the records,
Now
looking at
it's
what's
coming
the
from
story
you.
that's in here,
I'm gonna
what do you
get
think
this
is
from
the
you.
actual? What do you think is the legacy? Like, what did you? There's Appetite. There's the 2 Illusions. That's enough to, make this a serious contender thing. But when you look at it, what do you see as that band's real legacy? Like, what is the actual mark that nobody can erase?
I think it's that band really, before Seattle broke and all those great bands. I mean, there was so many. I mean, there was Nirvana, who were like this songwriting genius. There was Pearl Jam, that was more like thoughtful, and there was Alice in Chains, who were like hard rock. I don't know. That was just like this brown slime that was so great and amazing, and Soundgarden with a middle finger coming up through the whole thing, screaming, and all these great bands, Screaming Trees. I mean, there were so many great bands. But before all of that, the 80s weren't great. I played in punk rock bands, and then it just sort of. There was Hanoi Rocks. It's sort of this band from this exotic place up there that was sort of a mix between Johnny Thunders and the Dolls and some other stuff. And then Razzle, the drummer, died. So I remember moving to LA and being 19 and 20 years old going, well, whatever's next, we're going to be the inventors of it. Whatever's next. And we're not going to be that band. We're not going to be Stryper, and we're not going to be the Warrant. And I'm nothing wrong with these bands. If you're into them, I'm not saying that. But we just
The point is that there's no point in being somebody else.
we couldn't identify with any of that, and we'd listen to old records and great old records and Rose Tattoo, and well, we're more punk rock, and we're more, I don't know, we didn't even question what we were. But I think when we landed and that record came out, we made the record that we wanted to make. A lot of people tried to get us to change. You got to add some rack toms. Not after all that shit we just went through. We're not. And your songwriting, you got to soften it up in your image. And yeah, well, then we're not going to sign that record deal with your label. We'll just be indie, We did it our way, and I think it helped change the radio listener's ear and be more open to things that were coming later on. I really do think that.
Thank you.
Oh, that's it. Okay.
He's just getting going.
That's it.